What's going on, everybody? Good evening, good morning, or good night to you, to those around the world. Here I am standing here again, as of course, holding an all-nighter shift at one of my job positions. But anyway, it's a graveyard shift, as I have discussed before yesterday. So going back to the summary of my discussions that I've talked about, the level of energy, the focus of our self-awareness, the human consciousness, the very important things to understand and of also remember. While I have some time, real quick, to just kind of briefly give you the focus of the day that we're all so excited about. This Friday, the Friday as being the best day of our lives, where we can take that day to just relax with our family, have our good planning activities planned out, ready to go for the next day on a Saturday and Sunday before we get ourselves back to work and doing our usual routine, giving ourselves for the service of others, whether if it's through family, church, God, and as well as community. So by the very things that we can really focus ourselves is, and again, the time and energy that we put ourselves through, the time and energy that we can really actually and potentially identify the parasites involved in that. So to define the parasites, and then going back to the focus again of this video, I wanted to discuss primarily the time and energy that we all put forth with. So by the very many parasites that were, and again, our distractions, as not perfect as we all are, but through time and the days that we have, where we should be growing as people, we should be growing as individuals, and through with that intentions and of our resources that we dive into, thanks to, and again, the computers, the use of computers, the internet. For us YouTubers, we can really search useful information about ourselves. Basically going back to the focus of my whole big realm of my YouTube channel is to find for our salvation, find for our most needed areas that we want to work on, so that way, yes, we can use our time and energy wisely through with being with the most meaningful moments of our lives after we've been able to succeed for our godly given goals and potentials. So anyway, to go back to the time and energy aspect, when identifying the parasites of our distracted areas that we're involved with, you can very well know what I'm talking about, but I won't go full into detail about that. But to look at the focus of the time and energy that you put with every day. So for example, all right, the time and energy that we really focus on when we're getting up every day from out of our bed, from out of our comfort, excuse my French, asses from the couch, because we just want to be so lazy at times, and we don't even think about the most needed ideas to expand our brains. The time and energy that we have every day, the time that we get every day, is the time that we should, and hopefully, expanding our brains, expanding our minds to our godly given potential. And again, so to those who are very spiritual based, take this from a spiritual base. Take this from a spiritual understanding that you can work your spirituality out with your goals and towards the time and energy that we really actually should focus with. Expand our brains by, yes, reading the books. And if you're a businessman and a salesperson, expand that brain by reading more about the sales, the products that you're selling, the products that your executives want to uphold, preserve, and provide, because that then in that area of the expertise that will draw more customers who will plan to remain with you for a very long time. And you can really take the great examples of the companies, Dell, IBM, Apple, the very time and energy that they put forth to keep customers, keep clients, keep the very people that are very important to the modern invention of the technological advances that we are with today, the very advances that we are using to basically, yes, expand our brains right here. And again, I'm not a very big fan of the bigger aspects of science, but science is good in most of the ways if you relate to science and technology, as I'm trying to gather my words. So the science and technology, the augmentation of artificial intelligence, the augmentations of automation in cars, the future vehicles that we'll be able to ride in, the very potentials that, yes, can be helpful, but at times look about yourselves again to make sure that these are things that should not be taken advantage of, should not be complacent of. And again, I want to be able to draw this full message of not getting complacent with your time and energy. You're comfortable, you're happy where you are, you're content with where you are, but I ask you, don't get complacent, because remember, we have more time for ourselves. By using that time for ourselves, not to be controlled, but what we can control. What we can control determines what we are eating every day, what time we're getting up every morning, how we're driving our own cars, how we are so dog-headed out on the traffic when we're cursing and putting all those cuss words out to the drivers. I understand. Hey, we're all guilty of it, right? We're not perfect, and through that time, use that encouragement of time and energy to listen to the real nice, useful audios while you're in your car. Make it as your college education. Make it as an extra education instead of turning on the wasteful music. But anyway, music's great for those who love the music, the meaningful music, more than the bumbo jumbo trash music. But anyway, so going back to the time and energy in our experiences within our existential situations, to put forth our time and energy to our written goals, to be able to stay within those goals, to look back to the goals, writing down in our own journals for those who are journal driven and are very driven with writing, the writings that we can really take into from expert literal writers, W.E. Du Bois, Langston Hughes, the very good authors. And again, the very time and energy that we can put forth with is through what we are watching through our phones. The very technologically advanced technology applications in our own phones that we have when we download the apps. When we can really take that time and energy to download the useful apps if we want to learn a language such as Spanish, French, English, German, Russian, Armenian, Arabic, the very things that we can really consider ourselves with, consume ourselves with prior knowledge, applied knowledge that will be useful knowledge in the long run. And, we can really be a productive society to the world. Productive society to the world, but of course, not be controlled with the world, but productive and contributing, productive and contributing aspects of what we can give to the world. And, the very many countries in this world, as of course, they're suffering from national debt. The national debt that is really aroused the polarization, the opposition of races, sex, the increases of inequality, the issues in the classes of people, middle class, the blue collar, the white collar. So the economics of our crisis. But in doing so, we can be more aware about it. Being careful about the right information that we get. Making sure that we're getting the right information. Taking that time and energy to make sure that we check our sources. As experts always say, make sure you check your sources. But anyway, so check for yourselves. Check the facts for yourselves. Fact check your resources. Make sure they're not wrong. Even as though most of us can be right and wrong. But in doing so, most of us can be happily and progressively great at what we do, more than beating ourselves up about what we are wrong and right about. If you want to do that and spend that time and energy about identifying the wrong and right people, hey, stay in politics. It's a contact sport. Politics is amusing, funny, curious to me, but in all else, it's a contact sport. Just like any sport that we play into. Football, basketball, hockey, baseball, but in the aspects of the time and the energy that we put ourselves for. Identifying your parasites, prioritizing and executing your potential written goals, staying up with those goals, staying up to date, and again, in our own selves, making sure that we're completely disciplining ourselves to be kind, respectful, giving to others. So that's all I have today, everybody. So, and again, happy Friday to all of you. Take this Friday to get it as a highlight of your understanding before you prep yourself up for the weekend. Prep yourself up for that good football time, barbecue or basketball time, feast, cheering game. All right, everybody, be safe, take care, and be happy.